From the minds who brought us Morbius, Gods of Egypt, and Dracula Untold comes Women Morbius.
Oh, yes.
I think that's kind of unfair. People have been saying the writers of this, they wrote those other movies.
They've made some Drake.
But like, as we'll talk about, a lot of things get changed along the way. You can write something amazing and then Sony do it. And then it can be anything. Then it can become whatever.
Matt Sazama and Burke Sharpless, great names.
Yep.
They wrote, among other things, Dracula Untold, The Last Witch Hunter, Morbius, Gods of Egypt, all of which have very low Rotten Tomatoes scores. But
Craig Mazin, didn't he do like superhero movie, which was like a parody?
Yeah.
He did the Scary Movie movies, and then he made Chernobyl.
Yeah.
So like, it's really about getting your vision accurately portrayed or having the team behind it.
And they say in Hollywood, like, if, you know, you don't make it long if you don't know how to play ball or if you're not talented in some way.
Yeah.
And I think what has happened with a lot of those movies, I think they've also written some good movies. But what happens, I think, generally is they write a good script. Writers can write a good script, and then it just gets noted to death.
Yeah.
And they, you know...
Or killed in the edit.
Or somebody has to... They're like, we need a scene where somebody says the game is on.
Yeah.
Or we need the guy to build a big fist out of bats or whatever.
I think that would have been in the original script because that's a genuinely good idea, in my opinion.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
But now they've turned their dirty hands to Madam Web.
Wow. Let's get into this because on a budget of $80 million, they're doing these lower budget Sony movies, the Sony Pictures Universal Marvel movie Spum.
That's right.
They did a similar thing with Morbius because that way you don't need to make that much money to turn a huge profit on these.
Make a hit.
But the problem is...
This is a hit. This is the equation for being a hit machine.
It basically is, but you have to actually make a product that people like and don't think is laughable, but not laughable in a way where they have to see it. They're laughable in the sense that I'm just going to see all the clips on Twitter and laugh at them through that.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's looking at around, or it was initially a 20 to 25 million US opening weekend over like 6 days because it opened on Valentine's Day, but it might not even make 20 million at this point. No, it's dipping. Yeah. We'll see. Monday the numbers will be confirmed, but it's not looking good. And the Bob Marley biopic is apparently doing much better, so that's kind of killing it.
Sure.
And, you know, this is where we're at. What do you think the story was?
Oh, come on, mate. All right.
Of Madam Web.
So Madam Web is Cassie Web.
Yeah.
And no one likes her and she doesn't like anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And but then
she has a big accident.
She has a big accident. She drowns, and then when she comes back, she can sort of see the future a bit in a vague way that's not really consistent.
Yeah.
And then it turns out there's a bloke out there, and he wants to kill 3 women.
And he's Spider-Man.
He's evil Spider-Man.
Sort of.
He's evil Spider-Man, sort of.
Yeah.
And then she's got
It's really missing something about the webs, isn't it? It really takes an element away of...
There's some webs in this movie.
Not on here. What's he doing?
No,
He's
that's
got
true.
Web and nobody.
Yeah. Should be called Madam Web and Mr. Jump. You know? And it could have been a rom-com.
And he can stick.
Yep. Okay, so Madam Web and Mr. Jump and Stick. I think that's too many words.
You're right. Just Mr. Jump is fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, so go on.
That's it. And then she's got to save him even though she doesn't want to.
He's out to kill
3 women.
3 girls.
3 girls.
Because they're in the future, in 10 years or whatever, are going to come to his house.
Dressed as Spider-Man.
Yeah, and beat him up.
Assaulted Spider-Man.
They're gonna basically do the start of Watchmen to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, that's right. Or the end of most movies that are fun where a bunch of people surround a guy and beat him up.
I find it hard to believe.
The end of the movie Death Proof.
Yeah, but like the 3 Spider women would team up, go to this guy's house who haven't moved,
just kill him,
throw him off a building.
Yeah, all right.
It doesn't really feel like in character with either these characters in the comics. I mean, there's been so many versions.
Yeah.
And also the actors and the portrayals here.
Sure.
Just a very bizarre. I mean, he must have really done something to upset them.
Yeah, right.
Because it obviously doesn't come to pass. So it's just kind of, like, how did we get here? Like, he must have tormented them for years and then not moved. Like, just stayed in his house.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Fucking dreadful. What is happening here? I mean, in a way that's like, there's a lot of fascinating elements to this.
It's not good. I was entertained for the most part, but a lot of it is baffling.
Yeah, I think it's it's worse than Morbius, but it's more interesting.
I think
Morbius is boring.
I think it is more interesting and therefore better than Morbius. But what I'll also say is this. I think that Madam Web is 2024's Joker. Unless Joker 2 is also coming out this year, in which case it is 2024's first Joker.
Okay.
In the sense that is a very light sprinkling of superhero references
Sure.
over what is just a genre film.
Yep.
In this case, it is kind of like lightweight supernatural horror slasher film.
Very lightweight.
Yeah.
I'm not dancing around any spoilers for this.
Okay, sure.
You've either seen it or you haven't. It's all
Okay.
been spoiled online.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Because if you're looking for superhero elements to this, Madam Web wears a 70s leather coat. What year is this set? We'll talk about it.
Uh-huh.
And the 3 Spider Women who are destined to become Spider Women, that's only done in flash forward. And they don't do anything spider related or get their powers by the end.
Yeah.
Even at the end when they're all living together, there's
Sure.
still not
Yep.
spider people yet.
No, that's true. Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
So this is sort of, when I say like a supernatural horror slasher, I mean sort of in the style of Final Destination, except there's no fate. The idea behind the marketing for this movie is that there's a web and it connects them all.
Yep.
And there's fate. And so fate in a way, or magic or destiny, connects Madam Web with Sims, who's the bad guy. But the other 3 are just around.
Yes.
So in a Final Destination movie, generally speaking, it's a group of people, friends or strangers, and they avoid death. You know, a sudden in a plane crash or something like that. They miraculously survive, and then fate sort of catches up with them individually. And so that is sort of Madam Web's deal, is that she survives this drowning.
And her powers are unlocked.
Because she's a paramedic.
Because and she got her powers because her mum was bitten by a spider as she died in the Peruvian jungle.
And Sims got his powers because he stole the spider out of the jungle and he was cursed.
And that spider
But the
lives forever,
girls
apparently.
just sort of live in the same area.
Yeah.
That's their deal. There's no revelation that they were all in the one place at the one time and some magic thing happened.
No.
It's just one of them lives in Madam Web's building, one of them
Nearly ran into an
on
ambulance.
an ambulance, and one of them...
Oh, her stepmom got in a car accident.
That's
or something.
right, yes.
Yeah.
And so she was at the hospital at
So
one
she
point.
sort of met some of them.
Yeah.
At one point.
But at some point, those 3 are going to get spider powers. How? We don't know.
it's not important.
It's very much
It's not a story
important.
worth telling.
Apparently it's not. No, that's right. And all different spider powers
yeah,
too.
exactly. Because you also this could have just been a Spider Women team up movie, like an actual one.
Sure, yeah, okay.
But they went with this.
But it also could have been just this, like...
Or just do one.
You could
make one Spider Woman. One has powers.
But I mean, you could also like strip out all the spider stuff. If I were to take this from the setting of it's just a horror movie about this unstoppable weird guy that they did something in the past. It's Final Destination. It's I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yep.
It's any number of these other things where you get some young teen stars and you put them in the movie and in their characters at the start, they had some experience and they're like, "Oh, glad we got out of this." But then it's brought about the creation of this murderous monstrosity that follows them around.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, this is a bit of lightweight fun.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I will add the idea of a Spider-Man, but he's a killer.
Yeah.
There is something in that.
Well, I mean, we've talked in the past about how it would be nice to do.
Brightburn, like, for example.
Yes.
You take a concept and
your superhero movies, but put it in a, give us a horror version, give us an espionage.
Give us a rude one.
Give us a sexy rude one. But also has to be good.
Yeah.
We should have said that.
Caveats.
Every single time we said this in the past 10 years of doing this podcast, and we've said it a bunch of times, we should have added that caveat. It also has to be good. And in a way, this is our fault because I feel like we didn't say that.
You're right.
We assumed.
I kept saying anything can be good.
Yeah,
but I should
that's
have
true.
said, but you actually have to
expend some effort.
Yeah.
We didn't do that, did we? So this is, in a way, this is our fault, and we apologize. But and again, if you did, you could pick any number of supervillains in the Marvel universe and go, what about a movie where
Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, or oh no, like you could do a movie where some kids piss off Electro when he's robbing a bank or something.
Yeah.
And then he follows through the city trying to kill him or whatever.
that.
That could work, and this could have worked, but it doesn't work for a bunch of reasons. Here's some things I like. I like how unpleasant Cassie Web is.
Oh my God.
She doesn't like her job.
So aloof.
She doesn't like her co-workers. She doesn't like
A
her
kid
mum.
comes up and who saved she saved this woman's kid. No, she shaved a woman and
She shaved a woman?
She shaved a woman, and the kid comes up and he goes, "Thank you for shaving my mum," and gives her a picture, and she's like, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And her partner's like, "You just take it and then later you throw it away." Like, have you never spoken to anybody ever in your life? What are you talking about?
Like, did you not? I mean, I understand your mum was researching spiders in the Amazon before she died.
Well, they didn't actually mention that line. They didn't mention. We see it, but it's not in the movie.
Some things there's some things that are in the trailer, but not in the movie. That line.
Yep.
Also, the Spider Women really doing anything.
Yeah. Everything you see in the trailer is pretty much here for the Spider Women doing anything.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm loving her energy. She hates teenagers.
Yep.
She hates doing stuff. She hates sitting at home alone, but she hates going out.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I think what they may have been going for, or this might be an accident, is that the character of Madam Web is quite removed and aloof and kind of above everything that is happening. But at the start, like you said, she's a paramedic. She's like a public servant whose job it is to save people, which she does. But she doesn't understand any other element of just being a person.
Yeah.
And they put it down to like her mum disappeared and whatever. But, oh, God. So at the start when it says, like, association with Marvel or whatever. And
you know what they should have done? They should have bought Marvel Knights from, the banner Marvel Knights from Marvel, because that would work better. Anytime I see in association with Marvel, I'm like, you're not fooling anybody.
No. And they must know that at this point. And the first thing it says is, like, on the screen is the Peruvian jungle, 1973. And
1973.
And I literally,
Pumpkins.
I went out loud. I went, all right. Like, that was how this began.
How dare you talk out loud in a theater and interrupt nobody?
There were some people there.
Interesting.
And anyway, her mother's hunting for a CGI spider for reasons we don't know. And she's 400 months pregnant.
Sure.
She's about to give birth to Cassie Web.
Yeah, sure.
But the reason we find out is that Cassie Web has some kind of disease, which is probably a fake Marvel Universe disease. Maybe it's real. I don't know. And she wants to get
She's got ultimate nulliferitis.
Yes. She's got Thor's hammerus. But and basically she needs the spider venom it'll heal her daughter.
Yeah.
And she's got extensive notes about the jungle and research and who she's working with and different spider enzymes and types or whatever. And her daughter has all of that, but she never wrote, I'm doing this because my daughter has an incurable disease.
Yes.
And that's why I'm in the jungle when I'm 9 months pregnant.
Right.
So she grows up her whole life just thinking that her mother was just running around with spiders in the jungle.
And also, like, there's a scene we see in flashback, her mother going to the doctor. You don't think that maybe Cassie Webb would go to the doctor after her mother died and go, what did my mother die of? Oh, okay. And I had an incurable disease, but I don't have one. That's weird. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she kind of gets an incurable disease by the end of the movie.
But also, here's the thing.
When she becomes Madam Web.
The Ezekiel Sims is cursed to be evil Spider-Man because he shoots Mama Web and he leaves the forest with the spider, the special spider with the special sauce.
Which he thinks cool.
Yeah,
cool,
and he is cursed to become evil Spider-Man. So what if Cassie Webb's mum left with the spider? Would she also get cursed? And then Madam Web would be cursed.
I guess so,
With probably worse than what she had.
Yeah. God, it opens with her just so much explaining like, I'm here because this is the particular thing and I need this enzyme and whatever. And then he goes back to camp and he's like, I'm going to rifle through her notes. And then she just runs up with the jar and goes, hey, I found that fucking spider.
It was in this
jar.
You
know what we were just talking about?
It was the jar on the ground.
Yeah, I found it. I picked it. I don't know. There's no holes in the top. We'll put holes in the top.
Yeah.
We'll put holes in the top.
Whose jar is this, by the way? I transferred to my own jar, but I didn't bring any jars. I didn't think this was going to happen, to be honest.
Ezekiel Sims is just like, I'm going to shoot everyone now that spider's turned up. You could just go with her, like, and get out of the jungle. And, you know, there's a... Anyway, she also, the vague powers, there's a moment also where she flashes back and visits her mother and they hug.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Doesn't matter.
What are the powers here? Because she's got the Nicolas Cage next powers where she can see
knowing,
into the future.
She's got the next knowing.
I know. Here's something I like. I think it's interesting how they filmed a lot of these scenes multiple times in slightly different ways. I think that is technically a difficult thing to do, and they pulled off most of them.
Unless you just get them to do 3 takes and you don't throw any away.
But you got to do it separately. Oh, you could do that too. You could do that, yeah. But like...
She's got the next to knowing powers. She can maybe send her astral form back in time or something. Sometimes she can split herself into 3.
Yeah. How you're gonna make the ultimate? You're gonna make the ultimate Spider-Man choice. Every Spider-Man has to do this. I'm sorry. These 3 Spider Women, they're all gonna die. Which one are you gonna save? Oh, all at once? Okay, great. Great. That's really good. Oh, okay. All right. I want to talk about this.
Go on.
So she loves Mountain Dew.
Does she?
And that speaks to with at the start. She goes to they get a Mountain Dew. There's a big Pepsi sponsorship through this.
There sure is.
The villain does get killed by a giant Pepsi sign. That's not a joke. Okay, so I'll get into this first. So the spider women in this, that they're supposed to be like teenagers.
Yes.
She's, protecting. But the actors are 22, 25, and 26. And I feel like it does just look like there's three grown women just all hanging out together.
Sure, absolutely.
And the police think that it's set in 2003. We'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the police think that she might have kidnapped these women, but you could just go but they don't know who Cassie Web is specifically or seem to know who these girls are specifically. There's just a vague idea and maybe like a grainy security footage of her just with these three women and not holding them at gunpoint, being like, get in the van.
Yeah. She's like, follow me.
They're just running together.
Yeah, sure.
So she's sort of on the...
I mean, that was New York in 2003, man. Running together was a crime.
Well,
before Giuliani cleaned it
Yeah,
up.
well, the stop and frisk, and all of that situation. But with that element of there being these three women that they're hanging out with, I don't think any of them are particularly given much to do. For one, superheroing, but Sydney Sweeney's in this, right? And if you see her in anything, whether it be Euphoria or that recent rom-com apparently, which I didn't see, or
so if you see her in anything, including the stuff you didn't see,
I didn't see. She's in the first season of White Lotus.
Yep.
She's actually quite funny and manic, and she does some great delivery. And in this, nothing. Just they're all flat and whatever. And it's if you've got Sydney Sweeney,
sure,
you don't want to do any of the things that she's capable of doing.
No.
Also, Ezekiel Sims is dubbed for most of this, it seems.
I think a lot of people are dubbed this, yeah.
And a lot of it's 80 art off camera, where it's you have to help me because I need this spider because of if I get the spider. There's a moment where I think it's Sydney Sweeney character was
You're sounding exhausted. Did you
he's
feel that?
He's like a spider person.
Yep.
Very good. Ben Parker's in this. And Peter Parker's mum.
And Peter Parker.
And Peter Parker as a baby.
Is that Emma Roberts as
Yes, it is.
As Mary Parker. Yeah, so that's how we're tying it all together. We've got Adam Scott as Ben Parker. He's in this.
Yep. Who I like.
Yep.
He also played Ben in Parks and Rec, so this is confusing to me.
Ben Parks and Rec.
Yeah, that's right.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's fun. I think them also Dakota Johnson and him as a pairing is
because they're paramedic.
They're okay
paramedic
together.
Duo together. Yeah, I think so too.
And it's 2003. Now, Dakota Johnson spoke to The Wrap about how this came up to be, and she said after she came on board there were drastic changes, and she said I can't even tell you what they were.
Whoa.
So we had the theory, and we talked about this in previous weeks, and so have others, that everybody in this signed on board thinking it was an MCU movie, and that's how they trick people into these. It happened to Matt Smith with Morbius.
That's right. It
seems to have happened here with everybody involved.
They should do a PSA about this.
Yeah, they should. That's right.
Or some sort of lawsuit advertisement. Have you or any member of your family ever been tricked into being in a spum?
You might be liable for compensation. But also,
that's right. You're liable for compensation. We're going to sue you as well.
That's right. I didn't misspeak. So it's 2003, right? But I think they've obviously changed this, and they've been very kind of cagey about whether or not that's the case. But there's a few hints towards this, just being all over the place. One being, there's a moment where a guy on a train is playing a PSP, and in North America, that came out in 2005. The Japan version came out in 2004.
Whoa.
There's a moment where...
maybe his uncle works at Nintendo?
Maybe he does work at Nintendo and he knows somebody at Sony. There's a moment where Dakota Johnson just says, I just want to go home and watch Idol.
Maybe she meant The Idol, the TV series with The Weeknd in it.
It could have been. It may as well be set now because of some of the technology. There's a moment where one of the three...
Wait, when did Idol come out?
Early 2000s, around this time.
That's totally
That's what I'm saying. I think it's just put in.
Yeah.
But it's also confused.
That's what all movies are, James. Stuff that's put in.
There's a moment where one of the teenagers pulls out a phone and they go, whoa, a phone. And it's like, hey, it's fucking 2003.
Yeah, sure.
There's teenagers have phones. In 2000, that wasn't unusual, was it?
I don't think
for
so.
somebody to have a phone. And also, do you remember the moment where she gets a can of Pepsi and she comes to the barbecue?
Yeah.
If you look at that Pepsi, I think they changed the can to either a 2003 version or a different product placement or something. Because she's holding a fake can.
Right.
For that. She's holding it a lot.
I mean, maybe they got... You were so animated you knocked your microphone
I did.
over. I think maybe they got the Pepsi sponsorship towards the end of the production, and maybe
Okay.
it was just a generic can of something and they added it. But then how would Ezekiel Sims be killed by the P in the Pepsi sign?
Well, exactly. There must have been some Pepsi development early on.
Maybe they're just like, okay, we're going to drop some we're going to drop some blue screen styrofoam on you, and you're going to be killed by something. So we'll figure out what it is later.
Also, you don't want to be killed by the S for like Spider-Woman or Man?
No, you're being killed for P for Peter.
I guess so. P for Peter Pepsi.
That's right.
And there's technology in this where Ezekiel Sims is being driven mad because ever since he stole the spider from the jungle, from the Peruvian jungle.
He's been having these dreams every night of these 3 random women dressed in spider costumes killing him, which I think is a sex thing, quite frankly.
How can he identify them, though? How can he do it? Because he's like, how can I do it with the technology of this era of 2003? And it turns out he can somehow just tell a computer, which will put an exact likeness of what they look like in their Spider-Woman costumes.
It's special NSA technology, James.
You're right. And then you say, just de-age it 10 years without the masks. And this is exactly what these 3 girls look like now.
You don't know what technology was like in 2003.
I do, because I was there, Mason.
I don't know.
And we all had phones.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal. And I also think if you look at the soundtrack, it speaks to like the confusion about what was going on, because there's the song Miles Away by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, which is 2003. This is some of them. There was Scandalous from Mystique, which is 2018. There's
What?
Meredith
2018, that's a 15-year discrepancy.
Yeah. It's the Stargate radio mix, apparently. There's the song Bitch by Meredith Brooks, and that's from 1997.
Well, that's fine, James.
Yeah, there's a song Toxic by Britney Spears, which is 2003, but it came out in an album, I think, the previous year. Because remember, they're like, this song's got to be big. It's a big song. We're all going to dance together on the there's boys here and we're dancing. I Think We're Alone Now is Tiffany from 1987. And the song that it ends on is Dreams by the Cranberries in 1993. And I think that is the biggest indication that this was a movie set in 1993.
Might have been, yeah.
I mean, if you look at the fashion, like a lot of the cars in the background, like the technology when it's not nonsense or clearly a reshoot, they've jumped time periods here. And I think it's reflected in the songs that they probably paid for and then later changed. And that's why the album is just nonsense, but also specifically around 2003 and like 1993. Like that's the kind of eras.
Sure. And I think you're right in the sense that if this were just a monster movie stalker slasher thing, you wouldn't need him to have the NSA technology, whatever, because he'd just be magic. But I think they were like, well, we've got to justify it somehow. I think he would just, but also if it were that, they would have a reason to be connected to him, and he would know that via magic or whatever it was. But because they're unrelated, there needed to be some sort of element where those 3 are connected to him besides just...
Maybe he just bumped into them and went, that's them.
Sure.
Like, that's more believable than this even.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, he went looking for Cassie Web and then he saw that they were all together for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe...
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Maybe he met all their parents.
Killed them all.
Maybe he made his way back to America and then all their parents touched the spider or something or tried to stop. One of them worked for customs and one of them worked for the taxi company and whatever, and they all touched the spider and he's like, stay away from my spider, and then they were all connected via the web of fate and magic or whatever.
Stay away from my spider. Here's my address.
That's right. Or he could just not be. He could move house, couldn't he?
He could have moved house. That's what I'm saying.
They would have just not been able to find him when they went on their future murder spree.
Yep. Everything's over-explained. There's a moment where Cassie gets poisoned and she's like, hey, how are you poisoning me? It's like, we know he can do poison. We saw him do it earlier and now he's doing it again. There's a moment where Ben Parker calls Cassie when she's doing a big depression at home. And he's like, hey, Cassie.
Do you mean she's on the toilet?
Yeah.
Okay.
He goes, hey, Cassie, it's me again, Ben. Anyways, this is why I'm calling, etc. And it's like, you don't trust the audience to like recognize the one person she's friends with.
Because I mean, Cassie, Madam Web, has an arc, which is that I guess the idea of why she's such a weird misanthrope is because she doesn't trust anybody because her mum went to the Amazon to research spiders before she died. And while she was pregnant, and Cassie's like, well, I guess she didn't care about me at all. And then over the course of the movie, she learns that the reason why that was is because she was looking for a cure for the disease that Madam Web had.
Yeah.
But then she's like, then when we see that, when she goes back in time and hugs her mum, she goes, oh, you were in the Amazon to look for a cure for me and you loved me and that's why you did it. And it's like, we saw it. You didn't have to.
Yeah.
You could just.
That's what I'm talking about.
You could just have a look and go, oh.
Yeah.
You could even have a go, oh, I get it now. And if you, the audience, are smart, you'll also get it. But if you don't, Screen Rant will have an article about it. They'll say, Madam Web ending explained. Cassie was happy because she realized that her mother was trying to save her with the spider.
Article to recommend at the bottom. The Dark Knight Rises ending explained.
Oh, you better believe it. That's right. 2024.
Yeah.
It's a new article.
So there's a Mary Parker baby shower, and it's very bizarre.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even though there's a lot of other people there, it only seems to be her and Cassie interacting.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just on the fringes, but just being like, ooh.
And then exactly, and then Mary Parker's like, Cassie, what was your mother like?
You don't know? That her
She
mum
does.
was
Yeah.
died
Well, exactly. You don't do some research.
because you work with, Ben Parker. Because he's your brother or whatever.
Did Ben not clue you in and go, hey, when you're doing the party games, don't mention motherhood to... I mean, I don't know why you've invited her, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, why would he even? Yeah.
But then the questions keep coming.
They do, don't they?
Madam Web, yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes in different time periods because she's got the freaky time powers. CPR comes up a lot. This is how you do CPR. If I ever die, here's CPR.
That's
do
right.
CPR on me.
Yeah. Because you haven't done anything during this movie besides dance on a table and run around.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to need a hero moment, and I'm thinking it could be CPR. So what I'll do is I'll engineer a situation in which my heart stops and you can do CPR on me. Oh, you don't know? So I'll teach you CPR.
I guess I wanted to ask you about the final showdown.
Okay, sure.
Because earlier on, there's a big fire at the explosion factory.
That's right.
And they have to go back to the explosion factory at the end for a big showdown.
They're like, well,
some reason.
we'll call an emergency paramedic helicopter and we'll ask them to park on the top of the explosion factory. And I mean, sure, technically, some of them will be like, wasn't there just a huge explosion at that explosion factory?
Yeah.
That we were there.
Wasn't there an ambulance driver killed at the explosion factory?
Yeah, I don't think we should go to
volatile.
I don't think we should land on the explosion factory. I think
also there's a big sign we probably can't land here because there's a big Pepsi Cola sign.
Yeah, and because of all the explosions, the building is probably not structurally sound. And I bet, like on our helicopter map at the headquarters, there's a big X over it.
Don't.
And the X is just
Just
don't.
don't.
Just don't. But anyway, so they're escaping from evil Spider-Man, and they say, okay, we're going to have to escape. We're going to go into the fireworks explosion building, and we'll get a helicopter from there. And they're like, okay, here's some flares.
Yep.
Just put them in all the boxes.
That's great.
Of fireworks.
Yeah.
When are they going to go off? Doesn't matter.
Whose business is this? Doesn't matter.
Because sometimes they put a flare in there, and it just sizzles for ages. And sometimes they put a flare in there and it just blows up immediately.
Yeah, man.
You giving those to kids, are you?
I mean,
You're
she knows.
insane.
She can see the future.
Oh, that's true. She can see
Forgot
the
that.
future. She can see the
Sometimes,
future.
depending, and sometimes she can control it. Sometimes
That's
she can't.
true,
Yeah. So just God. So we also get a very what's interesting because I didn't think they were going to do it, but Madam Web becomes full Madam Web by the end, and by that I mean she's in a wheelchair and blind.
She earns her blindness and paralysis
By taking a firework to the face underwater. I don't know where the paralysis came in. Did something fall on her? I might have just missed it.
No, I don't know.
Because when she was in the wheelchair at the end, I went, "Oh, is this like a permanent thing? Would this happen earlier?"
Big Birds of Prey energy. The Birds of Prey TV series.
The TV series. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I thought. Mm-hmm. And they're all living in a loft together and looking at a big themed window, spider themed window.
And it was like, no matter what happens in the future, we're going to be together and we're going to be the birds
I got
of
the
prey.
line. I actually wrote it down, took out my phone. Whatever the future holds, we'll be ready. And the thing about the future is it hasn't happened yet. And it won't. This is it. This is
won't
over.
be another one, yeah.
This is finished forever.
Yeah.
I love that she comes in and she's wearing the Madam Web.
The big Oakleys.
And whatever. And she's like, and they're like, you bought chicken for dinner. I knew that. Oh, how was your thing? I knew that. That would get real annoying.
Oh, sure.
And they really wanted to drill home that, like,
you're going to tell me to dial it back because you find it annoying. I won't.
Like, we get it. She's now.
I've finally found a personality to this, and I hate everything, so I'm going to go with it.
She can see the future. Like, we get it. Mm-hmm. We absolutely get it. And they're all suited up at the end. But she has astral projection, Doctor Strange powers.
Yep.
She also has, that happens to her earlier. She gets punched out of her body.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange style.
Yes.
Is that a Madam Web thing?
Sure.
I'm just like, is this a specific thing that I'm supposed to like recognize and know?
No, I guess, but they're like,
No.
but they're like, we got to find a way to get her in missions. If we ever do another one of these, which we won't, she needs to be there to be able to do missions. So she's got astral projection powers. It's fine.
Anyway, also there's the birth of Peter Parker, and they say, well, Uncle Ben, he's going to love being an uncle because when you're an uncle, there's no responsibility. You get all the fun stuff, but you don't have to. And I hope he doesn't get shot in Queens, a thing that is alluded to much earlier in the movie.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Also, the responsibility line, I can't even remember who says it, but it's when you take on responsibility, great power will come. That might have been that guy in the cave.
It was the guy in the cave.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And I guess that's true.
So true.
Just, what are they doing?
I'm going to say best movie ever because I had a wild time.
I'm not going to say that.
Okay,
I don't see this. Don't pay money for it.
No, don't see it.
You shouldn't encourage.
Watch it on streaming.
This kind of behavior.
Yeah, what you should do, wait till it's on streaming and get some friends together and watch it like that.
Yeah.
I think.
What do you think Sony's like? What did they think would happen?
I don't know,
with
man.
this. At what point did they know this was this movie? You know,
It's a great question.
like did they tried to fix it, obviously, but
Yeah, maybe.
but it's not. It's what it's.
Do you think they would? Because it doesn't feel like at any point, like the action set piece at the end doesn't feel like that. Feels like that was always the ending. It doesn't feel like because it's too big, even for a lower budget movie. Like for a lower budget movie, I think it's too big.
Big explosions. Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like at any point they were like, okay, at the ending. See, at the end, I thought initially because. All the gals fall off the roof and they're all precariously hanging on for dear life, and it looks like they're all going to fall and die. And as you said, Madam
You can't save them all.
Madam Web has to do which one she's going to save, and then she's like, "Oh, actually, I'm going to split into a bunch of different astral projections. I'm going to save them that way." And I thought that's the moment where they would become Spider Women or whatever.
Yes.
You know, she'd be like, "Well, I don't have the powers, but you can have do it like Buffy or the other ones where
they're already in there and they manifest."
Yes, exactly.
Something you hinted at earlier,
and then they would beat him up, and then he'd be like, "Oh no, I did this." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'd be like, "I caused the creation of these Spider Women, and now they've killed me because I tried to kill them." So actually, whatever. But they don't. They just she splits into the three beings, and then she sort of helps them up slightly.
Yeah.
And then she just
goes,
stops
"You're all
doing
right.
that."
You're all right.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And that also feels like they worked backwards. They went, okay, how could how could she save them all? What if she splits into three?
Yeah.
Like a spider would. And then and then
like
they
when
were
you
like,
cut a spider into three, it goes into three separate
and they're like, well,
spiders.
that would be absolutely out of nowhere, wouldn't it? And so they're like, well, what if the guy in the cave says, yeah, you could be anywhere at once. You could be in multiple places at once because of spiders. You know how spiders can do that?
Yeah.
You know how,
a spider could be in a different place than another spider.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But their web connects them all.
Also, a few people pointed this out, but this is on Reddit from LLLLLI0, who said, at the end of the film, Madam Web starts looking in the girl's future, and there's this scene where the camera pans up to a building, and it's the exact same scene from Spider-Man 2 where Toby is running and jumps from building to building.
Oh, it's like a sort of pan-up shot. It's
Is this Sony reusing footage or what? Yeah.
Must be, yeah.
Almost certainly.
Huh.
It could be a fun Easter egg, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's period appropriate, isn't it?
2003, baby.
Yep.
Also, it's obviously not said in any of the Spider-Man universes because with the killer Spider-Man running around.
Nobody goes, that's Spider-Man.
That's Spider-Man. Oh, wait. He's got a knife.
Yeah.
And no webs?
No webs. That's Mr. Jumps. Look out. Yeah, if it was, yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's not said anywhere.
Because they're all, if any of those kids were native New Yorkers, when they saw a guy crawling on the roof, they'd be like, they wouldn't go, that's a crawly man.
Yeah.
They'd go, they call him Ceiling Guy. And I think it'd be funny if Spider-Man was called Ceiling Guy by everybody. Because you can't control it.
No, you really can't.
I mean, unless you hold a press conference and go, just so you know,
Day
I'm
one.
Spider-Man.
Day one, yeah.
If you were crawling on the ceiling, people would call you Ceiling Guy, and
Yeah.
you'd be that forever. Even if you made a concerted effort to walk on the ground, it would still be like, it'd be like Ceiling Guy's on the ground now.
It's like if your mum ran up to the school bus on the first day of high school because you forgot your lunch and she gave you the lunch, you'd be Mummy Lunchbox Man.
You'd be Mummy Lunchbox Man.
For the rest of your life.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, I got some reviews here. This one's from Adam, who says, Madam Web, predictably terrible, but the best spun movie yet. The exchange between Anya and Maddie about friction, gravity, and science will go down as one of the worst exchanges in comic book movie history. The turd in the wind universe marches on. I don't even remember what's that friction gravity scene? I don't
I think there
that.
might be a scene because Madam Web drives them. She steals a taxi.
Oh, yeah.
And she drives them all.
Steals a lot of stuff. A lot of cars.
She hits a lot of people with cars as well.
Yeah.
Mostly evil Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
But then they go into the forest, and I think the girls are sitting by a fire, and they're talking about how he crawls up the walls or something.
That's fun.
Yeah. Also, the girls decide to go to a diner. Madam Web leaves to do some stuff. She's doing a lot of, I got to go. Stay here. I got to go.
I got to go.
I got to sort some stuff out. And the girls all leave to go to a diner and they leave their fire going. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
That causes forest fires. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did she pry the plates off the taxi? I think she could have just driven around and
Have
nobody
you never done a crime, James,
No, but then you're
involving a
driving
taxi?
around. I think it's more obvious, especially in 2003, because you'd have to ring in every taxi that you see, and nobody's actively looking for a taxi, really. So, like, it's more, if you didn't have plates, you'd be more likely to get pulled over, you'd think.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Anyway, Benson Maid says, we're 2 months into 2024 and you've only reviewed 3 movies, Beekeeper, Argyle, Madam Web. I rank them, number 1, B, number 2, Web, number 3, Argyle. Would you? Argyle is technically a better movie,
sure.
I would say, because there's clear direction and there's a point and action sequences and characters and stuff. But I don't know whether I had more fun in Argyle than this.
I think there are elements to Argyle. I think there's a couple of action
And
sequences
Sam
that are
Rockwell's
very
great
good.
in it.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that's a real drag.
Yeah.
I think this is
And
somehow,
this didn't drag, did it, Mason?
No, this is somehow less of a drag. I don't know what happened.
It's more, I think for me, it's more like this is fascinating than a good movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how did this get, what are we doing this now for?
I wish you could have a podcast called What Are We Doing This Now For?
Vinton says, I think Spum believes that making movies more comic booky means everyone's saying everything they're doing means everyone's saying everything that they are doing all the time, and a no-web Spider-Man is boring to watch. Anyways, I can't believe this movie was made.
There is a moment where Sims is trying to, he's pursuing the gals. They're in Times Square or whatever it is.
This is the villain Ezekiel Sims.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Not The Sims. They're not being pursued by a box copy of The Sims.
Sure.
Which would have been big in 2003, I assume.
Completely agree.
And he's on top of a car, and he does a leap, but it cuts instantly because it's like, where are you going to go? You are not leaping far enough to get onto any of those buildings.
And you can't web.
You can't web, so why couldn't he have webs?
Why couldn't he? Or a rope or a grappling hook.
Sure.
The other guys have grappling hooks in the jungle, don't they? And vines and shit.
Oh, yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, give him a hook on a chain or whatever.
Yep, give him a hook on a chain. And Sham says, Madam Web was the exact wet fart you sort of expect it to be. Zero action and dialogue, so funny I almost couldn't stop laughing. Vibe of the crowd also wasn't great. Really felt like nobody wanted to be there. How busy was your screen?
I reckon there was maybe 8 people in the cinema.
Yeah, I had about the same. And I reckon I booked online about 20 minutes before it started.
Yep.
And there was nobody in the cinema.
Oh, you would have been in for a treat.
Yeah, but then when I got there, like, they had the old people roll in.
Sure,
So there's probably 8 people in total, including me.
Okay.
I was the only one by myself.
Some stuff got laughs in the theater. I remember thinking that's actually kind of a funny line, and that's not bad.
Sure.
Look,
Were you doing singers? Is that how that happened?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That's typical of you.
Yeah.
I love that.
More like Mr. Jumps, I said, and everybody laughed.
Woo!
Woo! I don't know. I think Dakota Johnson's in this is pretty fun. I think it's worth a free viewing. So when it's free.
Yeah. She's very, let's say funny. It's not right. It's not the right
There
word.
is a line where she goes to the barbecue after she's drowned, and she's like, they say after you something cardiac arrest, but now I'm fine. And the delivery was very funny. I couldn't tell you what it was.
I find her delivery in general just so, like, her cadence is so weird and aloof.
Okay, yeah.
And like even her as a person, like it's the same.
Yeah.
That's what I find really
She was in
amusing.
50 Shades of Grey, right?
Yeah, she was.
Okay.
She was Dorian Gray or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. All right, should we move it along?
Let's move it along.
What a great movie. Good start to the year. 2 bad movies out of the gate.
Oh, incredible. So Dune 2 is in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we got
What
that.
are we going to do in the meantime?
God, I don't know. Who knows, Mason? We'll have to figure it out.
Great. I love that.
What are we going to talk about next, though? What segment?
Oh, it's what we're reading.
Yep.
What are we going to read?
Here we go.